Callum Walker,
My man,
what is going on, brother? How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited. Yourself?
Super excited to have you on here, man. Thank you for taking the time out once again. We had you on a couple of weeks ago at the ECA Mastermind meetup, and it was an absolute game changer for everyone there. And I thought, fuck it, you know what? This man needs to be in front of the entire ECA group. So thank you for taking the time out, brother.
Well, no, I thoroughly appreciate you sharing me with all of you guys. Like really means a lot. So, and I'm hopefully excited to, help a lot of people. So we're all good.
I would be doing them a disservice if I didn't have you on here. Callum, so for anyone that doesn't know you, quite a number of these guys would have been at the summit last year.
Yeah.
I'm sure seen you or connected with you or passed you at some stage over the weekend. But for anyone that wasn't there or maybe doesn't know you yet, give them a quick brief on your background in nutrition, and tell us a little bit about what sparked your interest in nutrition as well.
Oh, great question. Right. Okay. So, brief introduction of me right now. So I'm a performance nutritionist. I've been the nutritionist at two professional sports clubs. I used to run my program working with elite athletes on a one-to-one basis. That ranged from Premier League footballers, international cricketers, professional golfers, really looking at optimizing their own performance. But then I also ran my own transformational business. So really helping people lose weight, change their lifestyle in a long-term and sustainable manner. And now my primary business is that I coach personal trainers and online coaches to upskill their nutritional knowledge, really to level up the results that they get with their clients. Not only from a knowledge perspective for themselves to grow as a coach, but more from a business point of view, really to get next level results with their clients so their clients stay with them longer, that naturally that breeds referrals and growing the business that way. But my journey to this was to kind of put it frank, I was a real fuck up at school. I'm doing a PhD at the moment, really specializing in performance nutrition. And what we're looking at is almost like optimizing body comp. So being able to increase muscle mass and drop body fat at the same time. But if you just said 10 years ago that I'd be slightly and remotely academic, I remember doing a careers thing at school, and they were like, the best you can hope for is PE teacher. And I was like, well, to be honest, I'm pretty happy with that because I've had my year 5 football team planned out since I was about 10 anyway. But I was like, I wasn't academic. School didn't set me on fire. I'm not overly clever. But, and this is something that I really do believe, I think that anyone can become academic if you've got something that really, really fascinates you and set your mind on fire. And for me, it was I went to university, but I kind of stumbled there. I scraped through A levels, purely because I had a great PE teacher who was like, dude, honestly, you're fucking up your life here. You are a smart kid, but you're just being a dickhead. And it was right, he really grabbed me by the scruff of the neck and was like, look, just apply yourself here and do this, and this. So I managed to scrape through into uni, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I've played a high level of sport all my life. I was on the books at Aston Villa when I was younger. I played a high level of cricket and everything. And my mum was like, well, if you're going to uni, you have to do a degree. So I was like, okay, obviously. And I was like, right, okay, what am I interested in? I was like, well, I am fascinated. I really love my PE A level. And then I was just fascinated. And it was the first time in my life that I turned up to any form of academic education. And I was like, I want to be here. Because it was more, not necessarily that I had no idea what I wanted to do. I didn't want to become a sports scientist. I had no idea I was going to become a nutritionist, but it was more, I was turning up to lessons to learn how to better my own performance. So I was like, shit, so if I actually just do that, and that, I'm going to play better at sport. And then naturally, again, I've always had a fascination with food anyway. I love my food. I love cooking. And it really just kind of...
What was that born out of, Callum?
I think, to be honest, my mum was a great cook when we were younger.
Right, okay.
And I just loved, and then I remember I had to do a Duke of Edinburgh award when I was 12 or something. I can't remember what it was. You had to learn a skill. And I went and did some cookery lessons, and I was like, fuck me, this is brilliant. And I've really, really cooking's kind of been a little bit of therapy for me as well, that just being able to, throw things together. And that kind of ties in with what I do now, where a real thing that I always say to coaches, especially with your clients, is making sure they fucking love their food, that it's exciting, that people naturally have this idea of eating healthily is eating rabbit food and dust and cardboard and all that sort of stuff. And that kind of like moved me into like how I was doing, because it broke my heart to see, you know, in the fitness world, that like this idea of that getting into shape has to be painful. And I was like, well, it doesn't. Because I'm like, well, I really love what I eat. It's not painful, and I'm managing to stay in shape. So my point was that, like, you know, I went to uni and then figured out this whole, like, I fucking love this. Like, I love this. And I just like pursued it. And I kind of struggled turning up to not necessarily turning to that, but following the structure, because I was very like self-taught, because I was like, I just want to learn so much about this. So then I got a scholarship to do a master's degree in performance nutrition, and then finished that and was like, right, okay, I'm going to do what everyone else has done and apply for a job that has absolutely nothing to do with what I've done for the last 4 years. So I ended up applying for sales jobs. And so I was 22, applying for a load of sales jobs. And my uncle came along and was like, look, can you just help me lose a little bit of weight? So I was like, yeah, all right then. So 50-year-old man, showed him what to eat, showed him how to train, taught him how to cook, 50 years old, teaching him how to cook. And he lost 2.5 stone. And I was like, fucking love that. Like, and I'm like, I'm pretty good at this. Why don't you do this for a job? So genuinely, I was 22 and I was like, fuck it. I didn't even think of like, I'm starting a business, but it was more like, this is just what I want to do. And I don't want to go to work. So, and I love this. And I've always been very stubborn anyway. And I've always been very driven when there's something to be driven for. And I was like, this is just what I want to do. So then I remember, as always, most of these things sort of start like, it started with like my mum's friend was like, look, can you just help me lose a little bit of weight? And she's a very successful businesswoman. So she sits there with me and she goes, right, what can you do for me? And I was like, didn't have the word product, sales, marketing. I didn't think of myself as like an entrepreneur or anything like that. So she goes, right, okay, what you're going to do is you're going to come to my house every week for the next 6 weeks. You're going to tell me what to eat. You're going to show me how to cook. And here's 180 quid. And I was like, and I've been a fucking broke student. So I've got this check. I think about it now, 180 quid for 6 weeks, like 6 week program. I'm like,
yeah.
I know. But at the time, I was like, wow, like I can't believe someone is actually paying me for this. And I remember running down to the bank and being like, oh my God, I think I'm fucking like rolling in it.
Yeah.
And it just grew from there. That like then like she got a result. She then like recommended me to all of her friends. So I was just like, I just had this like women's club of like helping people lose weight. And because I come at it from like an angle of like, it was different, it was exciting. All of these women have been to Weight Watchers, Slimming World, they tried the pills, the products, the shakes. And then I'm telling them that, no, actually you need to do all of this, and this. And they were loving it, finally getting a result. Like that started to move. So then anyway, just through like coincidence, really, I then got in contact. I got contacted by professional sports club near me, and they were looking for an academy nutritionist. And again, their budget wasn't massive, so it was like, look, can you just come in and consult? So then I got back into but I got into the world of elite sport, and then that sort of grew. Where I then became the nutritionist at that sports club, and then another one got in contact with me. So then I was like freelancing for 2 elite sports clubs at the time. I'm still consulting for one now, and then off the back of that, just through again like recommendations saying you've got to go see this guy. Like I then got contacted by like other professional sportsmen and women, and then it grew that way. So
again, just my own curiosity here. Callum, when you say consult, who within the club do you actually consult? So is it like
the players?
You got to speak to the chef, you got to speak to the player, like
yeah, everything. So like it's kind of like twofold, and again it's kind of working with like a lot of it is working with the kitchen staff, making sure that everything's like sorted when I'm not there. And then really and I really want to put my own stamp on it and be like, not be a tick box exercise, because like, and known with like elite athletes, like, although everyone can have this image of elite athletes, like actually they're like 20-year-old kids doing something extraordinary. So like just coming in and telling them what to do, it's a no-go. And then this is where I kind of look at like the art of coaching is very much, you've got to sell the benefits and the ideas as to like, look, this is why if you actually do X, it'll do this for you and it'll stop this from happening. So almost like, a lot of my stuff, I was like, right, what I don't want to do is it be that the lads all come to me, they have a 5-minute slot and they just get told, no, you're a bag of shit, you need to eat this and this, because they're not going to action anything. So a lot of the stuff was more like, right, just to prioritize, give me your players, give me the ones who are like, right, okay, we really want to work with. And then it was like really kind of one-to-one stuff. So like right now, from a consultancy point of view, I do like CPD stuff with the like the sport and exercise medicine, the sports medicine like department in the club. So like, I'm working with the S&C physio, like we do talks on like, right, okay, from a nutritional point of view, we very much like work as a team, because a lot of my stuff as well is like with injuries. So like, when a player's injured, looking at the right sort of food that they need to eat in order to optimize their performance, their recovery that way. So, so the moment I'm in professional cricket, and a lot of stuff with like bone injuries, so with stress fractures. So you find that with like, if anyone's working with rugby players and all that sort of stuff, like optimizing their bone health is massive. Like for any form of contact sport. So with cricket, although it's not a contact sport, it's very much like a lot of impact with bowlers. So so working with the support staff, the kitchen staff, and then really the players on a one-to-one basis. So, but I like to almost like keep it as formal, but also informal as possible. So like, I was on the golf course with a few of the lads on Wednesday, and it's just like developing that relatability and that respect is huge from a coaching perspective. So, but that's only a small snippet of what I'm doing now. That really, it's just like, I'm just freelancing. So I'm not like I am in-house, but I'm external. My main business really is like, it is solely focused on personal trainers, online coaches, and helping them that way.
What are some of the, because again, I say this all the time, most businesses are born out of frustration. So there's obviously something there, and it might have been on your own part, or it might have been something that you've seen, but what are the biggest, I suppose, misconceptions that maybe personal trainers have around nutrition that prompted you to say, do you know what, I can solve this problem? Like what was the main thing that you were like,
there's two things.
Okay.
First of all, the number one was born out of my own internal frustration of that, like, I got level 3 PT qualifications as part of my first degree. And also like, I graduated with a master's degree in nutrition. And I went out and I very much felt like failed, because I was like, I'm coming from a master's degree level here, and all of the stuff I've been taught, it's not relatable. Yeah, okay, it's relatable in like an athletic setting, but like really kind of from a one-to-one point of view, it was just like really a load of like 99% of the stuff I learned at uni really wasn't applicable to actually working with real life people. So I just really felt, I was just like, I really have been set up to fail here. And I look and I go, my clients expect me. And this is where I then looked at it, that I realized that I had a lot of clients as PTs. So in my transformational business, I had a lot of personal trainers and coaches, and they'd come to me and they'd be like, look, I'm going to be honest. I know I should know this stuff because my clients expect me to know this, but where do I get this information from? Because you go on, you look at it and you go, right, okay, unless you're going to go and pay and do a degree, which you put a post out the other day, I was 100% with, I was like, don't bother. Like, really don't bother. Like, unless you're like going to become a doctor, a lawyer, like, okay, yeah, as a nutritionist, yeah, if you want to be a nutritionist, I do believe you need to go and do a degree to understand that. But like, that's if you're going to be solely a nutritionist. That like, my degrees have not made me a good coach in the slightest. They've just given me credibility more than anything. But that doesn't mean I know what I'm talking about, because I know loads of nutritionists who talk shit. I'm like, you ain't got Scooby what you're talking about here. But I think my point was that like, I had loads of PTs and coaches, and I was just like, they've really been set up to fail here, because it's like, right, their clients come to them to, expecting them to know what they should be eating. Like, and they do. But then it's like, well, but I haven't been taught and trained how to do this. And then the only information available to me is the internet. And that's just a whirlwind of like, you have people down this end of the spectrum who are like, life's problems are solved by a calorie deficit. And then you have other people down here who are like, if you look at a carb, you're going to go to hell. So it's almost like, what do I trust? Yeah. So I think I really kind of felt, I was just like, I really feel like I can help people here. And really like I have, something to offer in that, by saying that fundamentally as a coach, your goal is to, and your job is to set someone up for success. Not just, and this is where I do believe that as a PT or a coach, you have to see yourself as less less of someone who just like trades their time for, that people pay for exercise. It's actually about your job is to set someone up for success. So in order to have fitness success, yeah, exercise and diet, yeah, but they're just components. It's like they have to eat, they have to train well, they have to eat well, they have to sleep well, they have to look after themselves from a psychological perspective. So really it's turning yourself away from going that, right, okay, I'm just going to focus solely on exercise to actually, I'm going to set someone up for success. So with me, although I'm a nutritionist, like I don't just focus on the food that like, you know, I am a qualified PT, I've got a sports science degree, but it's more that like, right, if I have some like an athlete, I'm looking at the quality of their sleep, what they're eating, that a lot of the conversations, like I had a guy, I had two actually, one was a professional sportsman, one was just someone in the general pop. And they both had massive gut issues, like really, really bad. And I said to them, I said, do you meditate? Do you meditate? He was like, no. That's because there's a massive connection between this and this. And once we kind of solved like the mindfulness aspect of things, didn't have to change his diet, everything changed. So my point is that it's almost like as a coach, getting away from just, I'm just going to exercise. I'm just going to get you to exercise to actually, I'm going to set you up for success. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense, mate. And it actually just reminded me of something that I read about last week. I can't remember the name of the study, but this was really interesting. I think it was done in like the 1980s. So basically what they done, a group of participants, and some of them were given a placebo drug and some of them were given a drug for whatever the condition was. I'm not totally sure, but they were told that potentially, and this is fucking crazy going based on what you're saying, this is nuts. So they were told that potentially you could lose some of your hair. So clumps of your hair could fall out if you're given this particular type of medication for your condition. The group that were given the drug, some of them lost clumps of their hair, some of them retained all of their hair. The group that were given the placebo, because they were told they could lose clumps of their hair, some of them done it. And it was like, they weren't even given the medication. They were just told, here's a possibility.
So I really specialize, my master's degree specialize in supplements. These are the three most potent supplements that you can recommend a client. Creatine, caffeine, number one, placebo. 100%. That like 100%, that like literally.
Tell me more on this.
All right, so again, so one, for example, so like I had someone ask me the other day about nootropics, like the supplement nootropics, like, you know, you get cognitive performance. He goes, oh, what do you think? And I said, if I told you my opinion, like I said, are they working for you? He's like, yeah, I feel amazing. So I said, don't want my opinion. Not going to tell you. Like if it's working for you, keep going. But like, it's like, for example, with alcohol. Okay, so what alcohol does is it can really almost like regarding like appetite. So you know when like if you've been on the session, like you want to eat more and more and more. Basically, it doesn't necessarily like increase your physiological appetite. It basically makes you press the fuck it button and you go, oh fuck it, I'm just going to go and eat this and this. So you end up kind of like eating more naturally because like your ability to make that decision and almost like control your emotions is suppressed. Now, what was really cool is there's a study that got people to basically consume an alcoholic beverage and then eat at a buffet, then consume a non-alcoholic beverage and they were told it's non-alcoholic and then eat at a buffet. So they always ate more when they drank the alcohol. But then they gave them a non-alcoholic beverage but told them it was alcoholic and they ate the same amount of food as to when they actually they drank the alcohol. So like, and I'm huge on this. That like, this is the most important thing that you need to look after. So I look at it from like a business perspective. I'm a huge believer that as an entrepreneur, your thoughts 100% will drive where you want to go with things. So it's like, you know, although I'm a very like logical person, I also have like a spiritual side. So you look at like things like the, people would never think that I talk about this sort of stuff, but like things like the law of attraction, the secret and all that sort of stuff. That where people get that wrong is that they almost like think that I'm just going to shut my eyes, visualize and this car is going to rock up. Whereas it's like, no, well, actually, the whole attraction is that you attract the thoughts, the ideas, the people, the circumstances necessary in order to do that. And then you have to take the action. But my point is that like, if you believe something, you will end up taking that action. So you look at like a placebo, if you believe something is having an impact on you, if you believe something is detrimental, then it will come to fruition 100%.
Love it, man. That's so interesting. What were some of the, well, I suppose, what was the biggest belief that, because I always say, I say to people, and I heard this here from a guy, he's an amazing coach, a guy called Dewey Nielsen. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but I've learned under Dewey like several times now. And he said to me, the science is there to prove us wrong. And rather than getting upset about it, you should be happy about it, because there were so many things that I believed around training and nutrition to a certain extent. I've kind of shared in the past that it's not something that doesn't light me up. Like, I don't get excited about it, and I'm fine with it. But around training, and there was things that I believed and would have told people years ago, which again, I don't think are completely useless. I just think that in the way that I put it across and how my understanding of it was slightly off, we'll say,
Yeah.
right? And he says, listen, the science is there to prove you wrong. For you personally, what was like one of those things that you believed in the start of your sort of nutritional journey, your educational journey around nutrition?
Yeah. So
what way was it? How did you break that belief?
Yeah, so I got very much sucked into the world of ketogenic diets. I remember talking to you about this previously, actually. I got sucked into the world of ketogenic diets that and then naturally that kind of led me down the path towards intermittent fasting. And I really had this belief that it was the only way you can lose weight is by going keto. And then it's right, okay, if you're not losing weight on keto, then you have to fast. And I got very, very, I didn't get to the point where I was a zealot, but in my mind, I was that's the only, because it was the only thing I was surrounding my attention with. So, and this is where I really think that as a practitioner, not even as a practitioner, but as a coach in general, that really you should see everything from every single perspective and then actually make your own opinion off the back of that. Whereas I just went down one road where it's right, okay, because I'm just consumed and almost swamped, and my environment was basically a ketogenic diet. I was surrounded by doctors, nutritionists, coaches who were only talking about ketogenic diets. The only thing that's in my mind is ketogenic diets. So what am I attracting more of? Fucking ketogenic diets. And then I'm convincing myself more and more, this is the only way of doing things, versus actually being able to. And I think that it's really, really helped me not necessarily have more of a balanced approach, but more of I'm not just regurgitating other people's opinions. I'm actually regurgitating my own opinions and my own lessons by going well, actually, do you know what I need to do? I need to go down the other end of the spectrum and see, well, there's a bunch of people screaming out here about, it's just about calorie deficit, calorie deficit, calorie deficit. So I'm well, I need to be more humble, adopt an attitude of humility, get rid of the arrogance as to I fucking know everything, and actually go, well, actually, I don't know everything, which is great, because then there's so much more for me to learn. Yeah. And that gets me excited. So then I go and have a look down here, and then I go through all the research, and then I make my own mind up off the back of it, and then come up with my own framework for doing things, not just copying and regurgitating someone else. And I think that as coaches, and I see this a lot with a lot of coaches, they're very good at basically just copying what someone else has said without actually having a look as to whether there is any reason as to why they should trust that. And I think it comes out of an attitude of two things. And I'm talking from my own experience, that people used to come to me with this new supplement and they'd be like, what do you think? What do you think? And I knew nothing about it. So my initial reaction, bag of shit. Nope, don't work. And that was just the defense mechanism, because I had no idea and I didn't want to look like a muppet.
Yeah.
And as opposed to actually, when I went and did some research, I was like, oh shit, got that one wrong. So then the best thing that I've ever done, and it's really kind of allowed my clients to respect me a lot more, is if I don't know something, as opposed to shooting it down, I hold my hands up and go, look, I'll be completely honest. No idea, but I'll find out. I will find out for you.
Do you think it's almost necessary? Because honestly, most people that I speak to today who have I would say you have plenty of credibility in the nutritional world based on the people that you've worked with, but do you almost think that it's necessary for people to go through a phase of believing that you know more than what you do, so that you can look back in retrospect and know exactly what you don't know, so that you're like, fuck. So then you never make that mistake again, or at least you try not to make that mistake.
Yeah, 100%. You have, I know it's such a cliche, but you have to fuck up and you have to go through that period, because then you're like, I know what, and I'm a massive fan of Matthew McConaughey, and he's very big on the process of elimination really is the secret of moving forward, where it's like, well, I know what I don't want to be like. So I know who I want to be, but I know who I want to be off the back of knowing who I don't want to be. So by chopping that out and going, right, I know what I don't want to do, and I know what I shouldn't do, that then almost like just by process of elimination leaves, well, there's, okay, that's the path. That's what I need to do, and that's how I want to go about. And I think that the more you can adopt an attitude of humility, the more exciting this whole journey becomes. That the minute that you think that you know everything, you're fucked. And actually, it's the point, like you have that classic Dunning-Kruger effect, where it's like you get started and you're like, I fucking know everything. And then something will happen and you'll then go, oh my God, I'm so out of my depth here. And you get into that sort of like valley of despair. But it's looking at it differently. And this is where I look at it like with entrepreneurship. It's like, there's so much I don't know. Now, I can look at that in like an imposter syndrome way and go, oh, there's so much I don't know, I'm not good enough. Or I can go, fuck me, how much is there left for me to learn? I'm like, this stuff sets me on fire. Like, I love personal development. I love entrepreneurship. I love physical performance. So I'm like, I don't know everything, which means that I already feel like I know a good amount of stuff. So the fact that there's even more information out there that I can actually grasp, put my own spin on it, and then apply it, like, that's fucking exciting for me. But then you've got to be careful about falling into that, like, and I know that you mentioned this a lot, that almost like mental masturbation of like more information isn't always the place to go. So it's about almost like taking on information based on like the circumstance that you're currently like facing. So it's like, you know, if you are in a position where it's like, right, do you know what? I feel like my knowledge is like got me to a level, but I need to go to that next level. What does that next level look like? Oh, okay, right. I need to take on the information in order to do that. But then you have to have an element of execution and implementation. Just knowing isn't good enough. Like, you have to be driven into that action, and you have to do that. So, but I really think it starts with an attitude of humility, and then looking at it like in a smart way. So I run a daily newsletter, and I wrote this today, actually. It was this morning's email. That like, when it comes to like growing and all of this sort of stuff, that like the most logical way about doing it for me, in my opinion, is that I had a coach the other day come to me. He was like, Cal, I've always like, you know, wanted to meditate, but I've never been able to stay on track with it. So then I was like, do you know what? I was in the same position, because like I've always wanted to meditate. I've got ADHD. I talk really quick. I need to kind of slow down with everything anyway. And I know that like meditation is going to be good for me. But I do it once or twice. I feel amazing, but then like I just never do it again. So then I'm like, oh, like I can't string along that that consistency that's necessary in order for me to actually fully get the effect. So then I looked at it. I was like, why is it? And then I did something which might sound fucking nuts. I actually paid £1,200 for a meditation course. Okay, sounds ridiculous, but like, why would you pay 1,200 quid? Because I was already using like Headspace and Calm. And the thing was, I was like, it's 10 quid a month. Like, it's just, it didn't hurt me. But then by me putting down 1,200 quid, do you think I meditate every fucking morning now?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Do. So I'm like, but more importantly, in my opinion, in order to get success with like growing, I think you need to have three things. You need to have purpose. You have to have a reason. So if I look at this, I have a reason because I have ADHD and I want to harness it in the right sort of way. Yeah. So purpose, but then you need to have accountability. And this is the same with your clients. Now, that accountability comes in two parts, in my opinion. You need to have accountability to yourself and your purpose, and to someone else. So it's like, yeah, I'm a nutritionist, but I also have my own coach who helps me with my physical performance, because I'm very good at believing my own bullshit. So it's like, he'll call me out and he'll be like, oh, no. So you have to have that accountability, but then also you have to have that structure, a clear structure. So me parting with that money to go on a meditation course, like, there's people who are already doing what I want to do. I can try and figure it out myself, or I can go, do you know what? I'd rather actually pay you. It gives me the accountability with the finance. I'm then accountable to someone else, and you're give me a much better structure than I could ever come up. That's why it's like the best thing I ever did to grow my business was to invest in a business mentor. Because I was like, there's a guy who's done what I want to do, been where I am. I can try and figure it out, but it'll take me fucking ages. I'd rather actually part with the cash, which then drives me into action and gets rid of the procrastination. But then also I've got a clear structure, I've got that accountability, and I've got a purpose. And it just probably sped up my growth by 5 years.
Love that, dude. That is an absolute game changer. That's going in the show notes. So purpose, accountability, structure. Here's the blueprint. Off you go.
Use that with your clients. 100%. That like with your clients, it's making sure it's like, I'm very big on coaching and sales being the same thing. You look at sales. Sales is the purpose of like influencing someone to take a specific action, really to solve their problem. So that like fundamentally, it's like, look, you've come to me and I have the solution to your problem. If you take this action, i.e. parting with your cash and listening to what I have to say, I will solve your problem for you. That is coaching. How do you sell? Based on emotion and logic, like the two. So then if I want to influence someone, I need to base it on emotion and logic. So when I'm coaching someone, it's like, right, first of all, I have to get them emotionally invested. Why do you want to do this? I.e. identify their purpose. Why do you want to do this? What's the reason for it? I.e. more importantly, two things. From an emotional point of view, we act on two things: to move away from pain, well, that way, or to move towards pleasure. So then as a coach, I go, right, okay, I need to identify what is the pain you're no longer willing to tolerate. Yeah. You're no longer willing to like sit on a chair and be like, the chair's fucking broke, or put on my jeans and it's not working. So you have to identify that.
Is that the most potent of the two? Move away from pain or towards pleasure? Is that why you hit on that first? So you're going,
move away from pain. It's like, you almost not necessarily got to get them to hit rock bottom, but like whenever I was on a sales call with someone, it sounds horrible. I'd try and make them cry.
Yeah. If they cry, they buy.
Yeah. But it's the same with like the coaching. I'm like, why are you doing this? Like I even had like, you know, it's amazing that I developed that relationship with people. That I had this one lady who was like, my husband won't have sex with me. We haven't had sex in 10 years. And that's a pain. And she's like, I'm not willing to tolerate that. So I told her to divorce her husband for one. But then, but secondly, it's like, right, okay, that's going to drive me into action. But then the second one is then you have to paint the pleasure. You have to give them that like, right, okay, this is what I'm going to move you towards. What does success look like to you? What's it gonna, you know, if you do solve this, what's that going to look like for you? So then they've got something to move towards. They've got like a meaningful pursuit. So then once you identify that, that's great. And then you have to hold them accountable to it. So you make something up, you make like a clear target, a clear structure for them, and you go, right, okay, you have to have accountability, and then they have to be accountable to themselves. So, you know, whether it's like I had one lady who was focused on, our goal was to get her into a wedding dress. It meant something to her emotionally. So she used to try that wedding dress on every single week. And that held her accountable as well. Because if she was dicking around and she tried that dress on and she knew, she'd be like, I've been on the cocktails this week. I went out with the girls a couple of times. And this dress means something to me. But then more importantly, every time that she was making progress, and it was a little bit looser, and she was getting a little bit closer to it happening, she's then like, I ain't fucking around, I'm moving. So she's accountable to something emotional. But then if you look at sales, then you get buyer's remorse. So I'm sure people here, happened to me loads of times.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm up for it. I'm going to sign up. Amazing. The next day, yeah, Cal, I really appreciate it, but like, I can't afford it. I got them emotional, but I didn't get them logically. Once the emotion cooled down, logically, it didn't make sense to them. Right. So then that's where the structure comes in. You have to have the purpose and the accountability that gets them emotionally, but then the structure, it has to make sense to them. They have to be able to actually take the action. So then it has to, and that's where you as a coach have to move away from just giving cookie cutter one-off PDFs to actually going, right, okay, what are going to be the roadblocks and the challenges and the problems you're going to experience during this time? Like if you've got if you're working with a mum who's incredibly busy, who's got no time, like you can't expect her to cook every 3 hours and do this and this if she's cooking 5 different meals for all of her different kids. So you have to take that into the equation. If you've got someone who's traveling around, and this is where you look at personalization, and this is where, in my opinion, you look at, my opinion, when it comes to whether it's training, eating or whatever, personalization's gone all wrong. That people think personalization is tailored macros. So just plugging in someone's like, height, weight, and age isn't personalizing something through a free calculator. It's putting the personal in it. And this is my big cause, to put the personal back in personal training. And how do you do that? By understanding the fucking person. Understand the person, because fundamentally, if you've got a lot of clients dropping off, the biggest question you need to ask is, do they feel understood? No. And that's what they want. Your clients want to feel like you've actually taken them into account and you get them. But that has to be legitimate. So you have to take them into account and get them. How do you do that? By finding out as much about them, asking questions, and work with them, not for them. Because if you work with them, the likelihood of you getting a result is going to be so much better. And they're going to be happier because you've taken the time, energy, and effort to actually understand them. And then you've got your purpose, accountability, your structure. You've got your emotion, you've got your logic. Result.
Nice. I actually had a few questions for you here, Callum, but I'm conscious of your time as well, and I don't want to take up too much of it.
So you go for as long as you want.
I've basically I've kind of singled one out here that I got asked this morning, and I think this is going to be really good for a tactical takeaway for everyone in the group as well, because someone basically asked me, they've got a client.
Yeah.
They're hitting all the markers, they're tracking their food, their satiety is good, they're saying that they're hitting their steps, blah, blah, blah. Basically, they're doing everything right. And they're not seeing the results that they want to see. Now, if it was me, I'm basically like, they're telling lies. They're misreporting in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
There's got to be something else out there, because they don't defy the laws of physics. But I also know that my take on it might not necessarily work, because who knows, it could be the possibility. I don't know. What's your take on that? How do you deal with that circumstance?
Right. So it comes in two parts. I think, first of all, when it comes to, I assume this is to do with someone who wants to lose weight.
Yes.
So really, this is where it's then adopting that attitude of humility and understanding that we are not all the same. That you very much have a spectrum of someone's ability to lose weight. You have people down here, you're skinny mini, who can just eat, and never put a pound on. You have other people who look at a Twix and put 5 kilos on. Yep. So really your goal is that you have to identify, right, where are they on that spectrum? Because for these guys, just a calorie target and a protein goal will be fine. Stick them in a deficit, do your 10K steps, get a bit more mobile, they'll lose a shit ton of weight. But I guarantee everyone listening to this has had 2 clients who've been on the same macros, same calories, yet got 2 completely different results. That's because we are all different. And this is where you look at, like, this is where I'm guided by research, but I'm not reliant on research. Because the problem is that you look at studies, they're an average. That, like, let's say there's a study that goes, right, okay, we're going to compare low-fat diets to low-carb diets. We're going to make the calories the same, the protein the same, and we're going to see what the result is. If the result comes out as there is no difference between the two, that's on average. So on average, out of those 100 people, on average, there was no difference. But there might be 10% of people who actually did so much better on the low-fat diet. There might also be 10% of people who did so much better on the low-carb diet, but they get lost as averages and anomalies. So my point is that, first of all, you have to go, right, okay, I need to identify where are they on this spectrum? And I'll go through how you can do that and like simple steps as to what you can do in a second. So identifying where they are on that spectrum, because again, like I used to do this, I used to immediately go, you're telling fibs, as opposed to, but the problem was I just kept having clients come to me with the same story of, I promise you, I genuinely did this, and nothing happened. And I was like, there's too many anecdotes coming out here. So maybe the plan's wrong. And also for some of your clients, they're tired and fed up of having the finger pointed at them all of the time. Yeah. And this is where you do have to have that, like, that bit of stuff though. And this comes to your skill as sometimes they are lying and you have to call them out on their bullshit. But that's up to you as a coach to be able to like kind of pull that out of someone and figure it out. And truthfully, I think that that comes from having a relationship and them respecting you, that if you've got that relationship and that respect and you are relatable to them, they will be honest with you. And then you do have that conversation where they go, okay, look, I am going to be honest. I have been doing a bit more of this and blah, blah, blah. It's like when I go to the dentist, he asks me, do you floss? And I'm like, I floss 10 times a day. Always. I've never flossed in my fucking life. But it's like, yeah, I'll do it. But I don't have a relationship with him. So I don't really care. Like I'm going to see him in 6 months' time. I'm not letting him down. So that's where as well, I really believe that the best thing that you can do, there's an amazing book on this called Start With Why by Simon Sinek, where he talks about manipulations versus inspirations. Yeah, it's important to have like little tactics, do this, and this to get them around, but that will result in like, in short-term gains. My point is that he also talks about inspiration for long-term success. Your goal is to inspire your clients, make them want to make you proud, and then they won't lie to you because then you're doing it together. And if they're like, do you know what? I want to rock up and I want to actually show him what I can do. I'm not going to lie. So my point with that is that that allows you to do that. But then you have to identify, right, okay, where are they on this spectrum? So if they're not lying to me, I then go, okay, right, I'm down here. They're clearly further down here. How can you do that? Really, a lot of it comes down to like the hormone insulin. So that like the insulin is effectively almost like the door to your fat reserves. Okay, this is very simplified. But like if you stimulate insulin, you shut the door to your fat reserves. You bring insulin down, you open it up. But the extent to which you stimulate it determines the extent to which your doors are shut. So for example, people down here, yeah, you're skinny mini, you can eat and eat and eat. They might have a sandwich, their insulin goes up, comes straight back down again. It doesn't have an impact on them. However, you have other people down here, and myself included in this category, where I have a sandwich, I get a very big insulin response. My body doesn't tolerate carbohydrates very well. So naturally, I have to be low carb for myself to manage my weight, because when I eat more carbs, I put weight on. I'm not saying that like carbs are the devil for everyone, but for me, they just don't work. However, for my brother, he can eat loads of carbs and he's fine. So naturally, then you ask that question and you go, right, how do I find that out? Is there anyone else in your family? And this is where don't try and figure it out yourself. Get as much information as possible. Is there anyone else in your family who's struggled with their weight? Do you have any diabetics? So my family, there's 5 diabetics in my family. That naturally signals out, so I don't have great genes in that sense. I have to work super hard to stay in shape, really, really hard. My brother, like, he's just fucking shredded. And I'm like, this is crap. But like, so for him, just eat less, move more, perfectly fine. For me, don't work. So naturally, you then ask, right, okay, first of all, family history, is anyone else diabetic? No, fine, blah, blah, blah. So actually, the reason why they put weight on is because they've just got pissed for the past few years and they haven't actually looked after themselves. Whereas actually, it's like, the majority of my family are diabetic or overweight. Like my mum's overweight, my dad's overweight. That then signals, that's one marker of, oh, okay. Then you go, what else have you tried before? If they come to you and go, well, I've been to Weight Watchers, done Slimming World, and do you know what? I actually really got a result. I've done a calorie deficit and I got a result. You then go, oh, okay, do you know what? A high carb diet will be fine for them. But then you also have to ask, okay, so if you got a result, why did you come off it? Yeah. And then you go, oh, well, I just hated the food. It was too structured. It was too rigid. Food was boring. So then your strategy that you go with has to be everything centered around what has worked and the opposite of everything that hasn't worked. So then I go, right, okay, if a high carb diet has worked for them before, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm going to go down that sort of strategy to give them more variety, but I need to have my focus. And the questions I'm asking them are you enjoying your food? Is this fitting in with your lifestyle? Is the actual way that we're doing it, is that working for you? Whereas if you have someone who goes, look, I went to Weight Watchers, did Slimming World, I was with a PT, and you know what? I really enjoyed the rigidity of tracking my macros, counting my calories. I loved it. It really worked for me, but it was so slow. But I just got no results. Then you go, oh, okay, do you know what? My approach, I can go with like a tracking. I can go with something more rigid and accountable and structured. But they've tried a high carb diet before. They're probably going to be a little bit further down this spectrum. Maybe I do need to go a little bit lower carb. And by that, I'm not saying you stick someone straight on a ketogenic diet. I'm saying just by making the switch from white to brown. Make the switch from white to brown and then see what happens. So getting as much feedback from your clients as possible, like that allows you to then make the tweaks. Like I said, work with them, don't work for them. Don't give them a plan, put a plan together, see how it goes, collect some data, and then go, oh, okay, right, we need to tweak that, tweak that, tweak that. So then if making the switch from white to brown wasn't good enough, then go, do you know what we'll do? We'll just introduce a low carb meal. So for breakfast, as opposed to having scrambled eggs on toast, have an omelet. As opposed to having like potatoes with your steak tonight, have some veggies. just by making that switch, then you can gradually kind of move people and then find that sweet spot. So I think it comes in two parts, understanding exactly where they are on the spectrum, but then also so that if they're not like getting a result, you can then go, oh, maybe the plan needs to be tweaked, but then also asking, right, okay, have I got a relationship with them where they feel completely comfortable to actually go, do you know what? I am lying. Because otherwise you're just going to act like the dentist is with me when I'm telling him that I'm a great flosser. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, mate. Every time I speak to you, it reinforces my decision to stay clear of any nutritional concepts whatsoever. It's like, I'm a strength coach. Do you want to move better? Do you want to get stronger? Let's go.
Yeah.
Like, go and fucking see Callum, go and speak to PJ, go and chat to Tony O'Neill. Like, yeah, I'm not your guy.
Yeah.
Which, you know, there's a lot of complexity there with it. It's for me personally.
Yeah, but then it comes down to what you're positioning yourself as. That, like you said, I'm a strength coach. Cool. You're a strength coach. Then go down the rabbit hole of being a strength coach.
Yeah.
Then that's where I really believe that, like, honing in on what you want to be and who you want to be really allows you to just go down. I'm a big believer that just going down one like rabbit hole allows you to really become a specialist. And if you can become a specialist, and fundamentally, I really do believe that if you can provide a result and a service they can't get from anyone else, you will not struggle in business at all, because you'll have clients who'll be like long-term fans. So even if they're not still paying you, they'll bring people in. And I think that if you can, that's just the base of the business that you're in.
So I'm positive that there's going to be people watching this here who maybe experience the same levels of confusion, complexity, everything when it comes to nutrition. Do you have tools that could help this individual? As in, Callum, tell me what it is. Like, what, you know, do you have something now that I can go off? Like, what is there right now that I can watch, that I can consume? How do I get on that email list? What do I need to do?
So I've got, I have a free ebook. So it's 5 reasons why your client isn't losing weight. So that actually ties in really nicely, because I'm sure that there'll be 5 things that you can action straight away. So 5 reasons why your client isn't losing weight. I'll send you that link over to you anyway. And then also with that as well, once you download that, I also have a free course, which is all centered around like in video format, because not everyone's a reader. I know for me, like, I do love reading, but then a lot of the coaches who I work with, they're more like audio and visual content. So I also have a free course that is with that as well. So I believe in the email that you get, when you're downloading the book, you also have access to the course. Now that course is also split in 2 parts. So even if you are like more of a reader, I would watch the course, because it's split into, first of all, like the 5 key things that you can do to break through a plateau. But the thing is, you can take a horse to water, but if you can't make it drink, then it's pointless. So there's also a second section all on like my framework, which I call my 5 steps to happiness, which is really around like the 5 key steps that you can take in order to optimize the client's adherence to their plans. So the 2 of that, the 2 sections really complement each other on, this is what you need to do, and this is how you can get your client to actually take that action. So, so again, yeah, I'll send that over to you, and then if you just send that to the person who asked the question, then I would 100% watch the free course off the back of that. And then also, to be honest, I talk about a lot of this stuff on Instagram, so just clicking the follow button.
If anyone wants to connect with you, where can they find you?
So Instagram's the main thing, main place. So my handle is CW_nutrition. Easiest way to find me that way. And then also there's a link for I do a daily newsletter. So that really centered around, like, first of all, nutritional tips that you can use to optimize your clients' results, but then also, you know, ways for your own personal and physical development, and ways to, and there's loads of other tips around optimizing your clients' adherence, and really being able to just build a more successful coaching program that you have within your business. So again, if you're interested in that, just drop me a line on Instagram. And if anyone's got any problems, questions, any issues with their clients, just send me a little voice note. I'm on it too much, according to my message saying I was on the phone. I'm like, yeah, pays for your handbags. But yeah, just send me a voice note if you've got any clients. Always happy to just like to help you out. So Instagram's the best place.
Unreal, mate. Before we wrap it up here, if there was one question that I should have asked you but didn't, what would it be?
Oh, you should have asked me, but what would it be?
I know. I've got
Oh,
it.
go
I've
on.
got it. Who's your favorite superhero?
Oh, come on.
Come yes, all of it.
Huge Spider-Man fan. And I'll tell you why. And actually, there's a lesson in this regarding coaching. You shouldn't have set me off. Actually, my morning journals are fucking Spider-Man ones. I'm a nerd. I'm sorry. Like, it is what it is. I've never been a Superman fan, ever. And the reason is he's too perfect. Perfect. I can't relate to him. Whereas Spider-Man, he's fuck up. I'm a fuck up. He makes mistakes. He's got the best intention. He really wants to do it, and he's incredibly talented, but keeps fucking up, yet still manages to get success. I see a portion of myself in him. And this is where it comes to, like, with your clients as well. I had it in my mind when I first started off as a coach that I had to be whiter than white. I literally, like, I could not have a bag of Doritos in my basket. No. Whereas I then got to the point where I was in the best shape of my life. I felt amazing, looked great, and I was fucking miserable. And also, I had no clients because I was leading a life that they didn't want to lead. So then I always ask myself this question on, am I leading a life I would want someone else to live? And then I realized that, like, my business, my coaching business is about so much more than just getting people into shape, that actually it's a reflection of my own journey. And that fundamentally, I then go, right, who do I actually want to become? And I found that with a lot of clients that they didn't follow me because they couldn't see a portion of themselves in me. And also I couldn't really see a portion of myself in them. So then almost like, and I take the Spider-Man philosophy of that, like, we might think that we have to be whiter than white and perfect, but your clients don't want to see that. But then conversely as well, you still have to make sure that you're a walking advertisement for the life that you can create for someone. So with me, it's very much about, have you got 1 minute for me to tell this little story?
Crack on, dude. Crack on.
Right. So one of my favorite books, and this is probably like some advice that I would give to any coach anyway, regarding whether it's with their physical fitness or their food, that yes, you do have to be in shape, 100%. If I'm fat, I'm not on this call. You're not listening to me if I'm fat. It ain't happening. So you have to take that into consideration. But I think that also you have to look at it and go, right, okay, what is the life that I want to live? And who are the people who are in my program, what's the life that I want them to live? Who do I want them to become? Because fundamentally, your coaching isn't about getting them a result. It's about changing their identity and turning them into someone else. So my point with this is that one of my favorite books is The Alchemist by a guy called Paulo Coelho. And it's a beautiful book. I go to it whenever I'm feeling a little bit lost. I go, like, I'm going off direction. I feel a bit off track. There's an amazing story in there that has really connected with me, where and it's how I live my life from a fitness perspective, how I live my life with my business, because I went through a period, like I said, with my food and my training, that I was just this, like, obsessive, like, militant, like, and the same with my business as well. I'd created a life to give me the business I wanted, as opposed to the business to give me the life that I wanted. So my point with this is that this story in The Alchemist was that there was a young boy, and he went to see the wisest of wise men. And he goes to see the man, and the wise man says, look, I'm a little bit busy at the moment, but here's a teaspoon. And he fills it up with some oil, and he goes, go and walk around my house while you're waiting for me, and don't drop the oil. So he walks around the house, comes back, and he goes, look, I didn't drop the oil. And the wise man then goes, but did you see all the beautiful tapestries, the amazing, beautiful garden we spent 10 years perfecting, the amazing, like, furniture and the architecture of the building? He goes, no, I didn't see any of that. I was just focusing on the oil. So then he goes, right, okay, what I want you to do is go back around the house, walk around, see the architecture, see the tapestries, the garden, everything, this beautiful house, and come back to me. So he goes, walks around, comes back. And then he goes, they were amazing. And he goes, well, what about the oil? And he dropped the oil. So then he goes, the secret to success and happiness is to see all of the wonders of the world, all of the tapestries, the gardens, the architecture, and never drop the oil. So I think that story has resonated with me massively on being like, who do I want to become? Not who do I think I need to become? And really, I went through a period as a coach where I was fucking boring. I was miserable. I was militant. No one like resonated with me. I've also been down the other end where I wasn't looking after my fitness, like my physical fitness at all. I also went down a period where, from a business point of view, everything was in high gear, but my missus hated me. I didn't see any of my friends. I didn't see any of my family. So when I look at like balance, I actually found that like the two can actually be incredibly complementary. But when I focused on actually my business should be, and my coaching business should be a vehicle to give me the life that I want, suppose the other way around, my business has been even fucking better.
Of course.
Does that make sense?
Totally, brother. Totally. It makes sense to me anyway, because I can definitely connect with that story for sure. Callum, thank you so much for your time today, brother.
Thank you for having me. Honestly, I just fucking love talking to you. Like, we're just on the same wavelength, and I love what you're doing. I love what you stand for, and it's just, honestly, it's a pleasure. So thank you.
Always, mate. Always. Any questions anyone has, feel free to either hit up myself, hit up Callum, whatever it is. We'll share that link in the chat, and yeah, all good. Thanks.
Right, I've sent you that there. Awesome. Well, thank you so